I'm actually a big fan of repacks. I know like a lot of people hate them, but I do think when you run into supply issues in what I always say primary and secondary market. Primary market is the wax market. That's how the cards primarily enter the market, and then there's the secondary market, which is singles trading, repacks, and things like that. And when you run into a supply crunch on the primary market, people will migrate to some sort of like secondary market for collecting. Um, I also think targeted repacks in terms of like lowering the price of entry to the hobbies is quite interesting. So I'll give a few examples. We have a card shop in Ohio. One of the repacks we did was specific to Ohio, which was we bought everything. We bought a pack sealer. We went on COMC and we bought in bulk, serially stamped Cincinnati Reds and Cincinnati Bengals cards. We published the checklist very transparently. We sealed the pack with a chase card in it, which is guaranteed to be serially stamped. And then you also got the serial stamped cards could be players that were not on the current roster all the way back to like the 90s. But then we also did four base cards, which had to be players that are on the roster of the Bengals or of the Reds. So we sealed five cards in a pack. Then what we did was we rotated whatever was kind of live in the hobby at the time. You got hobby packs in the repack as well, and you got two. So just as an example, we did a Reds repack where you got one serially stamped Reds card from a player between 1990 and now. You got four base cards of guaranteed players on today's roster, and you got two packs of like Topps Chrome hobby baseball. We even did like some level of chase in the packs as well. So it could be Topps, normal Topps, Heritage, Topps Chrome, and we published a list as well of what packs were included in the repacks. We branded everything with our shop to add like legitimacy that we were backing these. We made them, and then we sold them in the shop. They did okay, not as good as I'd hoped, but not as bad as a zero. And so I think repacks like done correctly can add a lot of value and increase the market size. I also think they're kind of self regulating. Like if the checklist is not transparent, I think people are not falling for that anymore. Um, and not only that, but I think like the checklist, it helps. It's hard to pull this off, but the checklist should be there, and I think that people should know that these cards were randomized in there and put in there, and that they all exist and they're all going to be pulled. So this is an important point. I don't think you should run a repack where a card is pulled and you cross it off the list, because then actually the pack should change value, which I think number one, it's hard to manage. Number two, it's not fair to the consumer. But what I don't like about something like an online repack like Courtyard or Arena Club is that it's it's unclear how big the checklist is. It's just these are the percentages that you will pull a card like in these values. It's even, they're trying to pose this as that the checklist is transparent, but I actually think it's not. And so when we run repacks, we sell actually repacks through vending machines in Ohio. The checklist is on the front of the vending machine, and all the cards are in there, right? So there's 50 cards. They're completely randomized. We do a video randomization for anybody that wants to see on our social media. And then we put those in the vending machine. And of course, people don't know which ones are pulled. People pull it out of the vending machine, walk away, open it at home, whatever. But all the cards exist. They're in those packs, and all of them will be pulled before we move on to the next round of mystery packs. And so I think adding this level of transparency and closure is really important, and that's how I see most repacks being done on Whatnot. There's a checklist, and in front of the person's phone is sitting all the boxes. And so I think those are the most effective, and I think this is largely self-regulating. So uh, and I definitely look. I'm a big fan of Courtyard. I love that they're bringing things on chain. I love that they're bringing new collectors. They're bringing things digitized, which is going to be huge for the market. I hope they push interoperability. Um, but I'm not a big fan currently of the current mechanisms in the market, and they've just got this like rolling inventory and buybacks and all this stuff. And so I think they've got a good first mover advantage, but I think more sophisticated games are going to come out where it's a little bit more transparent, a little bit more people get closure, and I'm looking forward to that as well. But bottom line, big fan of repacks. I know there's people out there, Burbank cards, et cetera, that don't want to do it, but I obviously think done correctly, this could be really, really good.